And thanks for spending a little bit of your day with me today as I share with you my solo trip around Lake Erie. Have you ever heard about the Lake Erie Loop? I hadn't until recently. So the Lake Erie Loop is an annual fundraising event where you must own a 250cc or less motorcycle, and you must ride all the way around Lake Erie, 650 plus miles, without stopping. Can you imagine riding all the way around Lake Erie, 650 plus miles, 250cc engine, and you can't stop? That's a heck of a fundraiser. That fundraiser was the inspiration for my trip. So here's the plan. Day one, I'm going to leave Columbus, Ohio, which is where I'm from, head north into Michigan, hit Detroit, cross over Ambassador Bridge, head along the Detroit River and south around Lake Erie to Kingsville, Ontario. Day two, I'll head from Kingsville, Ontario over to Chatham, Ontario. Day three, I'll head all the way east over to Hamilton, Ontario, all the way south down to Niagara Falls, cross over the Rainbow Bridge, get back into the US, travel west through New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, meet my husband in Cleveland, and we'll ride back to Columbus together. Obviously, I'm not going to race around Lake Erie. I'm going to take 4 days. I'm going to do some sightseeing, and I'm going to just relax and ride. It sounds wonderful. My goal for this video is to share my experience, first and foremost, to provide some entertainment, but also if you're a rider that's looking to travel into Canada, I do share what you need to know to cross the border to get into Canada. I share with you some things that I wasn't necessarily familiar with and didn't think about until I was into Canada. I'd like to share with you that as a woman rider, you can ride alone safely. I'm not naive by any stretch of the imagination, but I was safe. At this moment, the reality set in. As soon as I swipe this credit card and head over the Ambassador Bridge, I'm in Canada. There's no turning back. So let's go. Let's do this thing. The Ambassador Bridge carries more than 10,000 commercial vehicles on a typical weekday. And today, there's one Ryker. To my left is the Detroit skyline. And to my right is the part of Detroit with its manufacturing plants that helped build most of the U.S. Goodbye, United States. I'll see you in a few days. Hello, Canada. It's 11 a.m. and I've made it across the Basket Bridge. I'm now leaving my Basket Bridge. There's a few things as a motorcyclist that you need to know when you're crossing through Canada Customs. Some of the things that you'll need, of course, you'll need a passport and your driver's license. Your driver's license must have a valid motorcycle license endorsement, which is M1, M2, or M class. You must also have insurance on your motorcycle. Also, please note that the Fourth Amendment does not apply, and your motorcycle can be searched without a warrant. It's illegal to enter Canada with any drunk driving convictions or any cannabis or cannabis products. Also, Canada does have riding gear requirements, so a helmet is required in all provinces. The safety helmet must be labeled to display the certification label. The most common certification in Canada is the Snell certification, but other accepted certifications include the DOT standard and the ECE sticker. In addition to a helmet, motorcyclists in Canada are required to wear other safety gear to protect themselves, and this includes a sturdy jacket with arm coverage from shoulder to wrist, made of leather, synthetic materials designed for motorcycling, or heavy denim. Riders must also wear sturdy boots that completely cover the feet and the ankles, such as leather construction boots, sturdy hiking boots, cowboy boots, army boots, that type of thing. To protect the eyes, riders should wear a helmet visor, goggles, glasses, or sunglasses. Gloves are also necessary, with full-fingered gloves that extend past the wrist bone, preferably made with full leather or with leather palms. So as you go through customs, make sure that you are suited up in proper motorcyclist attire. And here's what you should know when you approach the Canada Customs agent. First of all, treat the agent like a police officer with respect and honesty. When you approach, turn off your bike and take off your sunglasses or flip your visor up. Know where you're going and the route you're taking and how long you plan to be in Canada. And then, of course, have your passport and driver's license easily accessible. And you should be good to go. I've made it into Windsor, Canada. Just crossed over that bridge to get here. And I am taking a little break at Assumption Park. When crossing into Canada from Detroit, you do have two options. There's the Ambassador Bridge or there's the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel. I chose the Ambassador Bridge because I could access the bridge directly from major freeways. Also, once I get across the bridge, it's taking me to the major freeways outside of Windsor. If I would have chosen the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel, I would have had to drive through downtown Detroit, which I was traveling solo and did not want to do. On the ride to my next stop, I went through historic Sandwich Town. No culinary tales here, but this is where the War of 1812 started. My stop at Fort Malden was very interesting for me because I don't know a lot about Canadian history. And by stopping here, I was able to get a little bit of insight of an 1820 barracks building with recreations of an officer's quarters and the soldiers' living quarters. They were side by side, and there was quite a huge difference in living conditions between the two.
Soldiers would be in here?
Probably 20.
No, more than that. There would have actually been 32 soldiers crowded inside this barracks. Wow. So you can see all these bunk beds here. Each bunk would have 4 men, so 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And then a mess of men would be from this side to the other side where my coworker is standing over there. So typically they would live in here with a small amount of their wives and children as well. So they'd have men, women, and children all crowded inside here.
Also, they had a cookhouse in the back, and the staff member had a wood burning fire, and she had made a cake of the day, which tasted like pita bread, but it was their cake. They served it for morale during the war. So I won't bore you with all the history, but here's a few items that piqued my interest. This historic site is the location of the longest American occupation on Canadian soil during the War of 1812. It was also at Fort Malden that soldiers of the British Army were provided a third meal on a daily basis for the very first time. This practice would then become the standard across the British Empire. And after the military abandoned Fort Malden in 1859, it was used as a provincial asylum for the mentally ill. Next, I rolled into Kingsville, Ontario, but before making it to the rental, I stopped at the Canadian Transportation Museum. I think the Ryker felt right at home here. I'll let the pictures speak for themselves. And this is where the Ryker got all excited. This has to be his great-great-granddaddy. This is a 1953 HD hand-built trike. It's got a 1938 Ford V8 60 cubic inch flathead engine and drivetrain with a narrowed 1937 Ford rear axle. The radiator is housed in a 1932 rad shell. The dual seats are covered in leather, and the rear cargo box is a modified military ammo box for 9-pound shells. Come on. Even if you're not a motorcycle person, that is ingenuity. Canadian ingenuity. Love it. After my stop at the Canadian Transportation Museum, I headed back to the rental where I rested a little bit. It had been a long day. I left Columbus at 6 a.m., and by this time it was 4 in the afternoon. But then, around 6 p.m., the clouds finally went away. The rain stopped. So I hopped on the Ryker and I drove to Point Pelly National Park.
Yeah, this one. The one golf is $9. On the screen. Would you like a map of the park? Sure. Oh, there you are. Thank you. No problem. Have a good one. You too.
Point Pelly National Park is the southernmost point of mainland Canada. Point Pelly has beaches that you can stop at on both the west and the east side of the park. As I was pulling into the dunes location, I saw this probably 40-pound raccoon running back into the forest here somewhere. That one eats well. In the middle of the park, they also have a marsh, and they've built a marsh boardwalk that takes you a little over a mile into the marsh. It was a beautiful sunset walk. While riding south towards the tip of the park, I met some of the local wildlife. And day 2 begins. What famous coffee and donut shop was founded in Ontario, Canada? Tim Hortons. So what's for breakfast? Tim Hortons. After my iconic breakfast at a Canadian Tim Hortons and a thermos full of coffee, I headed out of Kingsville, Ontario. Next stop, Leamington. In Leamington, I visited Our Lady of Lebanon Shrine. My goal was to have a peaceful morning and sit and drink my coffee and reflect. The statue is made of white Carrara marble and it's 140 feet high. Apparently, this is a replica of Our Lady of Lebanon Shrine in Harissa, Lebanon. The Mother of Mary statue at the top of the tower is simply majestic and beautiful. I was able to climb the winding staircase to get to the top, and the view from there was amazing. At the very bottom, there's a door that leads into a small chapel. On the outside of the shrine, you can walk around to 14 stations of the cross that have been carved on huge boulders of rocks. It's a beautiful stop. This part of Ontario is definitely farm country. Only the majority of their farming country is land with greenhouses. Let's take a minute to discuss purchasing gas in Canada. Canada sells gas in liters, not in gallons. So when you pull into a gas station and it shows $1.33 at the gas pump, that's $1.33 per liter. There are approximately 3.75 liters in a gallon. So this is important to know because many of the gas stations in Canada, all the Essos, require you to select your dollar amount when you pay at the pump. You must select the Canadian dollar amount of gas you want to purchase, say $10. Then your credit or debit card will be charged that amount, and the $10 worth of gas will be dispersed. So if you need more gas to fill your tank, you must do the same and determine how many more dollars worth of gas you need. And since we're on the topic of payments, it's a good idea to notify your bank that you'll be traveling internationally. Oftentimes, you can get online and enter the exact dates of your travel, which is very easy. This will eliminate any suspicious charges being flagged and your bank debit or credit card being shut down. Also, for debit or credit cards, you'll want to ensure that you won't be charged any international travel fees. That goes for cell phone usage also. Call your cell phone provider to verify that you will not be charged for calls that you make while traveling in Canada. Next stop, the Milner Heritage Home in Chatham, Kent. Chatham, Kent has a great downtown area just to walk through. However, my favorite stop was the Milner Heritage Home. This is a Queen Anne style residence that was built by a captain of industry back in the day. And the best stop of the day was in Dresden, Ontario, where I stopped at the Uncle Tom's Cabin Museum, now known as the Josiah Henson Museum of African Canadian History. This museum is a must stop if you're ever in this area. Let me give you a few of the highlights. In 1830, Josiah Henson escaped with his wife and his 2 children to Canada. He became an influential author, abolitionist, Methodist preacher, and a public speaker with the freedom that he risked his life for. He helped establish Dawn's Settlement, which was a community inhabited by former American slaves, and he repeatedly returned to the United States to guide 118 others to freedom. Henson's autobiography that he wrote and published in 1849 inspired Harriet Beecher Stowe's anti-slavery novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, the novel that helped to propel the Civil War. Josiah made several trips to the United Kingdom, where he was received by Queen Victoria at Windsor Castle. He sold the walnut furniture that they made at Dawn's Settlement at the World's Fair in England, which is where he first was noticed by Queen Victoria. That was a great stop, but all of a sudden I realized I missed lunch. I'm starving. So I rode to the hotel, and right across the street was a mom and pop restaurant. Oh my goodness. One of the specials on their board was 3-piece roasted chicken with lasagna and garlic bread. I looked at the waiter and I said, "What's the side, the chicken or the lasagna?" And he looked at me like I was crazy. Oh, I had to try it. It was so delicious. And it came with another side of rice pudding that I ate later. Good morning. Today is day 3 of my trip around Lake Erie, and I am just cleaning my gear, and then I'm going to go down and have some breakfast. So after I grab a bite of breakfast, I'm on my way to the east coast of Ontario, and I'm going to go visit the Dundurn Castle, and then I get to head down to Niagara Falls, where I will take some pictures. I'm not going to take the boat ride because I want to wait and do that with Bob, but I'll take some pictures from the lookout points, and then I'll be crossing Rainbow Bridge down near Buffalo, and then tonight I'm going to stay in a place called Chicatoga. I don't know if that's how you say it or not, but that's where I'm staying. Should be a fun day. Lots of riding. After a 2-hour ride, I finally made it to Dundurn Castle. Dundurn Castle is a historical mansion that overlooks the Burlington Bay. It was once home to Sir Allan Napier McNab. He was a railway magnate, a lawyer, and Premier of the United Canadas, 1854 to 1856. The building straight ahead is a dovecot, which is a structure intended to house pigeons or doves. They contain pigeonholes for the birds to nest. Pigeons were an important food source during this time period and were also kept for their eggs. Tours are offered by custom interpreters, and 42 of the 72 rooms have been remodeled and are open to the public. The mansion illustrates the daily life from the 1850s, with the family who lived above stairs and the servants who lived and worked below stairs. The mansion also features the latest convenience at that time, which was gas lighting and running water. Fun fact, Sir Allan's washroom featured a toilet with running water, which was one of the first in Upper Canada, and it was installed before the United States White House had a toilet with running water. Let me share some of the items that I found interesting on this tour. Dundurn Park has its own folly. The use of the folly is unknown, but spectators think it served as a theater, a boathouse, an office, or possibly even a cockfighting ring. Urban legend has it that many tunnels exist, leading from the castle to various parts of the estate, and one of the entrances was through this folly. Historians know a great deal about the life in the castle in the 1850s thanks to a very detailed diary belonging to Sir Allan McNab's daughter. This young girl writes about every aspect of her daily life. Another interesting fact is that Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cornwall, is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Sir Allan McNab, and she's the patron of the museum. And now I'm off to Niagara Falls. There's a barge, or more technically a dumping scow, that's been trapped near the edge of Niagara Falls since 1918. The scow broke away from its tug with 2 men on board, and it got stuck just short of going over the Horseshoe Falls. The 2 men were rescued, but the scow has been there ever since. This picture gives you an idea of how close it is to the Horseshoe Falls. I can't wait to get in that building right there. That building not only will provide me an excellent view of the falls, but there's food, and I'm starving. Hello, USA. I will see you soon.
heading back to the States. I just made a trip around Lake Erie.
Are you bringing anything back with you from Canada?
Just some stickers.
You were all set. Have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just that easy, I'm back in the USA. That evening, I drove to my hotel in New York. And the next morning, I drove through the rest of New York, through Pennsylvania, started into Ohio and met Bob in Cleveland. Oh boy, I'm back.
Yay.
Bob and I drove back to Columbus together, and the trip was over. But what a trip it was. Thank you so much for taking your time and watching my solo trip right around Lake Erie. I do hope that you found some entertainment in this video, as well as some information that may help you on your motorcycle trip when you make your own loop around Lake Erie.